The crystalline ships of the Kalrathi convoy moved slowly through the darkness of space, trailing smoke and debris. Commander Veshetala gripped the sides of her command chair as another explosion shook her flagship. The lights flickered, and somewhere below decks, alarms screamed warnings about failing systems. "Hull breach on Deck 7, reported her second officer, his voice tight with fear. "We're losing atmosphere fast." Veshetala looked at the tactical display with growing despair. 3 cycles ago, they had been a proud diplomatic convoy of 12 ships, carrying representatives to the Galactic Council's annual gathering. Now only 4 ships remained, and those were barely holding together. The Kresh raiders had been hunting them without mercy, their weapons tearing through shields and armor like they were made of paper. Another Kalrathi escort vessel exploded on her viewscreen, torn apart by enemy fire. Veshetala felt her heart sink. That ship had carried 200 crew members, good people, friends, all gone in a flash of light and fire. "Commander, the Kresh are closing in for the kill," said Pelmos, her young communications officer. His crystalline skin, normally a beautiful blue color, had turned pale with stress. "Their battlecruisers are charging weapons. I estimate we have maybe 10 minutes before they're in range." Veshetala knew she had run out of options. Their weapons were exhausted, their shields were failing, and their engines could barely maintain speed. The convoy was dead in space, waiting for the final blow. She had one choice left, though it terrified her. "Send out a distress signal," she ordered. "All frequencies. Maximum power. Any ship that can hear us ask for help." Pelmos hesitated, his hands hovering over the controls. "Commander, the only civilization close enough to respond is the human system. They're Category 7 Deathworlders. The Council protocols say we should avoid them at all costs." "I know what the protocols say," Veshetala snapped. Then she softened her tone. The young officer was only following his training. "But look at our situation. The Kresh are about to capture or kill us all. At this point, I'll take help from anyone, even Deathworlders." Pelmos nodded and began transmitting the distress call. The signal pulsed out into space, carrying a simple message in standard galactic code. The Kalrathi convoy was under attack, their position was included, and they desperately needed immediate assistance. 300 light-years away, on the Terran Defense Station Olympus, Lieutenant Jake Morrison was having a boring night shift. He sat at his communications console, drinking cold coffee and thinking about his bed. The graveyard shift was always quiet. Nothing ever happened during these hours. Then his computer made a sound he had never heard before. A priority alert chimed, and alien text began scrolling across his screen. Jake sat up straight, nearly spilling his coffee. His hands moved quickly over the controls, running the message through the translation software. "No way," he whispered, as the message became clear in English. It was a distress call from an alien species called the Kalrathi. They were under attack by raiders and needed help. The message included their exact location and the desperate plea for any ship to respond. Jake grabbed his comm unit. "Captain Harris, you need to get to the command center right now. We've got a situation." 10 minutes later, Captain Stephen Harris stood in the command center, reading the distress call for the 3rd time. He was a tall man with gray hair and the weathered face of someone who had seen combat. He had served in the border conflicts 20 years ago, back when humanity was still learning how to fight in space. "How far away are they?" Harris asked. Lieutenant Amy Chen checked her navigation console. "The Terminus system is 17 hours away at maximum jump speed, sir. But I have to remind you that the Galactic Council has made it very clear that we're not supposed to interfere in their affairs." Harris knew the history well. For 20 years, Earth had been trying to make contact with the galactic community. Every message was ignored. Every offer of trade or friendship was rejected. The Council had declared Earth a quarantined world because humans came from what they called a Category 7 death world. They thought humanity was too dangerous, too violent, too unpredictable to join civilized space. The isolation had hurt. Earth had the technology for space travel, but nowhere to go. No trade partners, no allies, no friends among the stars. Just silence and rejection. But now, someone was asking for help. "Those council politics don't matter right now," Harris said firmly. "Somewhere out there, people are dying. They sent a distress call. We're going to answer it." Commander Greg Patterson, the executive officer, stepped forward. "Sir, we don't have authorization from Earth Command to deploy the fleet. This could cause serious diplomatic problems." "A distress call is all the authorization I need," Harris replied. He turned to face the entire command center staff. "Listen up, people. I know the Council has treated us like criminals just for existing. I know they've ignored us and isolated us. But when someone calls for help, we don't ask about politics first. We help. That's what makes us human." He hit the fleet-wide alert button. Throughout the massive station, alarms began to sound. Thousands of crew members rushed to their battle stations, pilots sprinted to their fighters, and the massive hangar bay doors began to open. "All ships prepare for immediate deployment," Harris ordered. "Full battle formation. We're jumping to the terminus system in 30 minutes. Any ship that isn't ready gets left behind." Amy Chen looked worried. "Sir, what do we tell Earth Command when they ask why we deployed without orders?" Harris smiled grimly. "We tell them we're experiencing communication problems. By the time those problems get fixed, we'll already be there." The fleet began to move. 15 destroyers, sleek and deadly, pulled away from their docking clamps. 8 heavy cruisers, their hulls bristling with weapons, fired up their engines. 4 massive carriers, each holding dozens of fighter craft, began launching their squadrons. And finally, the 2 pride and joy of humanity's secret fleet, the dreadnoughts Valiant and Defiant, their enormous forms moving with surprising grace. On the bridge of the carrier Liberty's Dawn, Admiral Lisa Cortez watched the deployment with satisfaction. She was a short woman with sharp eyes and the kind of presence that made people listen when she spoke. She had spent 15 years building this fleet in secret, knowing that one day humanity would need it. "All ships report ready, Admiral," said Commander Pete Walker from the tactical station. "Jump coordinates are locked in. We can leave on your command." Cortez stared at the star map showing the location of the terminus system. The jump through space felt like falling and flying at the same time. Inside the human ships, crews worked quickly to prepare for battle. Nobody knew exactly what they would find when they arrived at the terminus system, but everyone knew it would be bad. On the destroyer Relentless, Commander Kyle Bennett walked through the weapons deck, checking on his crew. The young men and women moved with practiced efficiency, loading ammunition and running system checks. These were good people, Bennett thought, well-trained and ready for anything. "Status report," Bennett called out to his weapons officer. "All railguns loaded and ready, sir," replied Lieutenant Megan Scott. She was a small woman with red hair and a talent for destroying targets. "We're using tungsten penetrator rounds. If those alien ships have energy shields like the intelligence reports say, these rounds should punch right through them." Bennett nodded. The railgun was one of humanity's favorite weapons. It was simple, really. Use powerful magnets to accelerate a chunk of metal to incredible speeds. Then let physics do the rest. When something hit a target at a significant fraction of light speed, shields and armor didn't matter much. The kinetic energy alone was devastating. "What about the missiles?" Bennett asked. "All tubes loaded with kinetic warheads," Scott replied. "No explosives, just solid chunks of metal moving really fast. The Galactic Council banned these weapons 3,000 years ago because they said they were too brutal." "Good thing we're not part of the Council then," Bennett said with a slight smile. "Make sure every system is ready. When we drop out of jump space, I want to be able to fire immediately." Similar preparations were happening throughout the fleet. On the heavy cruiser Thunderstrike, crew members loaded electromagnetic pulse weapons that could disable enemy ships without destroying them. On the carrier Swift Justice, fighter pilots ran through their pre-flight checks, making sure their small but deadly craft were ready to launch. Aboard the dreadnought Valiant, Captain Nicole Hayes stood in the weapons control room, watching her crew prepare the main gun. The magnetic accelerator cannon was the size of a small building, running through the entire length of the ship. When it fired, it could launch a projectile the size of a car, with enough force to crack a small moon. "How long until we can fire, Chief?" Hayes asked the weapons chief, a grizzled veteran named Tom Bradley. "Gun will be charged and ready 3 minutes after we drop from jump, Captain," Bradley replied. "We've got 1 shot loaded. After that, it takes 20 minutes to reload." "1 shot might be all we need," Hayes said. She had seen what the main gun could do during test firings. The destructive power was almost frightening. But if it saved lives, she would use it without hesitation. Her executive officer, Commander Ryan Cooper, approached with a data pad. "Captain, I've been going over what little intelligence we have on Kresh ships. They rely heavily on plasma weapons and energy shields. Standard galactic technology. Nothing we haven't seen before." "Which means nothing that can stop our weapons," Hayes observed. "The Council banned kinetic weapons because they're too effective. Energy shields were designed to stop energy weapons, not solid projectiles moving at relativistic speeds." Cooper nodded. "It's going to be a shock for them. The entire galactic community has been fighting the same way for thousands of years. They've forgotten how to deal with good old-fashioned kinetic warfare." On the flagship Liberty's dawn, Admiral Cortez gathered her senior officers for a final briefing. The holographic display showed what they knew about the situation. 4 Calrathi ships, badly damaged, surrounded by 20 Kresh warships. "We're outnumbered on paper," Cortez said, her voice calm and steady. "But we have advantages they don't know about. Our weapons are designed to counter energy shield technology. Our ships can pull maneuvers that would kill most alien crews because we evolved in higher gravity. And most importantly, we're fighting to save lives, not to steal and murder." She looked around the room at her officers. "I want rules of engagement to be clear. We disable enemy ships when possible. We only destroy them if we have no choice. Our goal is to save the Calrathi convoy and send the Kresh running home. We're not here to commit genocide." "What if they don't run?" asked Commander Pete Walker. "What if they decide to fight to the death?" "Then we accommodate them," Cortez replied coldly. "But we give them the chance to retreat first. We're not monsters, no matter what the Galactic Council thinks about Deathworlders." Lieutenant Danny Foster spoke up from the communications station. "Admiral, we're receiving another transmission from Earth Command. They're really insistent that we return immediately." "Tell them the truth," Cortez said. "We're committed to this course of action. We'll face whatever consequences come when we get home. But right now, people need our help, and we're going to provide it." She turned back to the tactical display. "How long until we arrive?" 15 minutes, ma'am," replied Chris Martinez from the helm. 15 minutes. Cortez felt the weight of command settle on her shoulders. In 15 minutes, they would either save the Calrathi convoy or start an interstellar war. Maybe both. But she had made her choice, and she would see it through. Throughout the fleet, final preparations continued. Pilots climbed into their fighters. Gunners made last-minute adjustments to their targeting systems. Medical teams prepared their bays for possible casualties. Engineers stood ready to handle damage control. On the Relentless, Commander Bennett addressed his crew over the ship's intercom. "Listen up, people. In a few minutes, we're going to drop out of jump space right in the middle of a battle. The enemy outnumbers us, but they've never fought humans before. They don't know what we're capable of. Let's show them why Earth is called a death world. Let's show them what happens when you threaten innocent people and humanity decides to do something about it." The crew cheered. They were ready. Back on the Liberty's dawn, the countdown began. 2 minutes to jump exit," Martinez called out. Cortez activated the fleet-wide channel. "All ships, this is Admiral Cortez. When we drop out of jump, I want immediate tactical assessment. Identify all targets, prioritize any ships actively firing on the Calrathi convoy. Weapons free on my command only. We go in fast, we hit hard, and we give them one chance to run away. If they don't take it, we finish this quickly. Good luck, and remember what we're fighting for." 1 minute, Martinez said. The ships began to vibrate as they prepared to tear back into normal space. Cortez gripped her command chair, feeling her heart beat faster. She had trained for this for years, but training and reality were very different things. 30 seconds. Across the fleet, thousands of crew members took deep breaths and steadied themselves. This was it, the moment that would define humanity's place in the galaxy. 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7. Cortez thought about the Calrathi convoy, desperately hoping for rescue. She thought about the Kresh Raiders, probably confident in their victory. She thought about Earth, and how this single action might change everything. 3, 2, 1, jump exit now! The human fleet exploded back into normal space in a flash of brilliant light. 37 warships appeared simultaneously, their weapons already tracking targets, their shields already raised, their crews already moving with the precision of a well-oiled machine. On the Calrathi flagship, alarms started blaring as sensors detected the massive spatial distortions. Commander Veshatala looked at her tactical display and felt her breath catch. Ships. Dozens of ships, appearing out of nowhere like avenging angels. "Who are they?" she whispered. Her sensor officer worked frantically at his station. "I'm reading 37 vessels, Commander. Configuration unknown. Energy signatures unknown. They're not in any galactic database. Wait, I'm getting an identification signal. They're transmitting in our language." A human voice came through the speakers, translated into perfect Calrathi. "This is the Terran Defense Fleet to Calrathi convoy. We received your distress call. Please stand by for immediate assistance." Terran, Veshatala breathed. The humans came. The Deathworlders actually came to help us. Pelmos looked at her with wide eyes. "Commander, what do we do?" Veshatala made a decision. "We trust them. We asked for help. They answered. That's all that matters right now." In the Kresh fleet, chaos erupted. Admiral Krovac stared at his sensors in disbelief. Where had these ships come from? His intelligence had said nothing about a human fleet. Earth was supposed to be quarantined, isolated, harmless. "Get me identity on those ships," Krovac ordered. "Now!" His communications officer worked quickly. "Sir, they're identifying as Terran, human ships. But this doesn't make sense. Humans aren't supposed to have this kind of fleet. They're supposed to be primitives." Krovac watched as the human ships moved into formation. They moved with a grace and precision that spoke of excellent training and powerful engines. These were not primitive vessels. These were warships, and dangerous ones. A transmission came through, a human female's voice speaking perfect galactic standard. "This is Admiral Lisa Cortez of the Terran Defense Fleet. You are ordered to cease hostilities immediately and withdraw. This is your only warning." The destroyer Relentless fired first. Its railguns hummed with electromagnetic power, launching tungsten rods at a fraction of light speed. The projectiles crossed the distance between ships in less than a second, moving faster than the Kresh sensors could properly track. The first Kresh cruiser never had time to react. Its energy shields, designed to deflect plasma bolts and laser fire, might as well have been made of paper. The tungsten rods punched through the shields without slowing down, then tore through the hull like it was made of tin foil. The kinetic energy transferred into heat and shock waves, ripping the ship apart from the inside. "Direct hit," reported Lieutenant Megan Scott from the weapons station. "Target destroyed. Moving to next target." Commander Kyle Bennett watched 3 more rounds launch from his ship. Each one found its mark with deadly precision. Human targeting computers, designed by a species that had spent millions of years as hunters, locked onto targets with frightening accuracy. "Shields ineffective," a Kresh sensor officer screamed on an open channel. "They're using kinetic weapons. Our shields can't stop them. Panic spread through the Kresh fleet as they realized their primary defense was useless. For thousands of years, galactic warfare had followed predictable patterns. Energy shields stopped energy weapons. Ships maneuvered slowly to avoid putting too much stress on their crews. Battles lasted hours or even days as ships traded fire at long range. The humans changed all those rules in seconds. The heavy cruiser Thunderstrike launched a spread of missiles. They weren't the guided energy weapons common in galactic warfare. They were simple kinetic kill vehicles, chunks of dense metal with basic guidance systems. When they hit their targets, the impacts released energy equivalent to small nuclear bombs. A Kresh destroyer simply ceased to exist, replaced by an expanding cloud of debris and superheated gas. Another took a hit that tore off its entire front section, the ship tumbling end over end as atmosphere vented into space. "How are they moving like that?" Pelmos gasped from the Calrathi flagship. He watched as a human destroyer performed a maneuver that should have crushed its crew flat. The ship spun on its axis, accelerated hard in one direction, then flipped and burned in another direction, all while maintaining perfect weapons lock on its target. Commander Veshtala understood with sudden, terrible clarity. "They're Deathworlders. Their planet's gravity must be much higher than standard. What would kill us from acceleration forces, they barely feel. They can push their ships harder than any other species in the galaxy." The human pilots were pulling maneuvers that would subject them to forces 8 or 9 times normal gravity. For species evolved on low-gravity worlds, such forces would cause blackouts or death. For humans, evolved on a planet where gravity was already high, it was uncomfortable but survivable, especially with their pressure suits and training. A squadron of human fighters screamed past the Calrathi ships, moving in coordinated attack patterns. Each small craft carried missiles and rotary cannons loaded with depleted uranium rounds. They swarmed around a Kresh battleship like angry insects, their weapons chewing through armor and systems. On the dreadnought Valiant, Captain Nicole Hayes watched the battle unfold with grim satisfaction. Her ship's main gun was charged and ready, but she was waiting for the right moment. The magnetic accelerator cannon was devastating, but it took 20 minutes to reload. She had one shot, and she was going to make it count. "Target the Kresh flagship," Hayes ordered. "I want a solution that puts our round right through their command center." The weapons officers worked quickly, calculating trajectory, speed, and timing. The Kresh flagship was trying to maneuver away from the battle, its commander finally realizing how badly outmatched he was. "Solution locked," reported Chief Bradley. "Ready to fire on your command, Captain." "Fire," Hayes said calmly. The Valiant's main gun spoke. The magnetic accelerators along its length engaged in sequence, each one adding more velocity to the projectile. By the time the round left the barrel, it was moving at nearly 10% of light speed. The round crossed the distance to the Kresh flagship in less than 2 seconds. The Kresh admiral probably never knew what hit him. The projectile struck dead center, and the kinetic energy of the impact was so enormous that it didn't just destroy the ship, it vaporized it. One moment the flagship existed, the next there was only a bright flash and a rapidly expanding sphere of plasma. Throughout the Kresh fleet, morale collapsed. Their flagship was gone. Their shields were useless. Their weapons couldn't seem to hit the wildly maneuvering human ships. And the humans just kept firing, their weapons ripping through ship after ship with mechanical precision. "All ships, retreat," ordered the surviving Kresh commander. "Jump to hyperspace immediately." But the humans weren't done. Admiral Cortez had given specific orders about how this battle would end. "Target their engines," she commanded. "I want some of them disabled, not destroyed. Let them limp home with a story to tell." Human weapons fire shifted focus. Instead of killing blows, they delivered crippling strikes. Engines exploded, leaving ships dead in space. Weapon systems were surgically destroyed, leaving ships helpless but intact. 5 Kresh ships managed to jump away, their hyperdrives engaging just in time. Another 8 were left floating in space, their engines destroyed, their weapons offline, their crews alive but terrified. The remaining 7 had been completely destroyed. From first shot to final casualty, the entire battle lasted 12 minutes. 12 minutes to destroy or disable a force that had been terrorizing this region of space for years. 12 minutes to prove that humanity belonged among the stars. 12 minutes to announce to the galaxy that the Deathworlders had arrived. On the Liberty's dawn, Admiral Cortez surveyed the tactical display. "Cease fire," she ordered. "All ships, stand down to alert status. Launch search and rescue for any survivors in the debris field." She opened a channel to the Calrathi convoy. "Commander Veshitala, this is Admiral Cortez. Are you and your ship safe? Do you require immediate assistance?" Veshitala stared at her view screen, barely able to process what she had just witnessed. The humans had destroyed a Kresh battle group in less time than it took to eat a meal. They had moved with precision and power that seemed impossible. And now they were offering help, not making demands. "Admiral Cortez," Veshitala replied, her voice shaking slightly. "We are safe, thanks to your intervention. We have wounded crew members and several hull breaches. We would be grateful for any assistance you can provide." "We're transmitting docking protocols now," Cortez replied. "Our medical teams are the best in human space. We'll take good care of your people." Within minutes, human ships were maneuvering alongside the damaged Calrathi vessels. Docking tubes extended, connecting the ships. Medical teams in white uniforms moved through the tubes, carrying equipment and supplies. Dr. Sarah Williams led the medical team aboard the Calrathi flagship. She was a veteran emergency room doctor who had volunteered for the fleet because she wanted to see the stars. Now she was about to treat her first alien patients. The Calrathi crew watched nervously as the humans entered their ship. These were Deathworlders, species from a planet so dangerous that the Galactic Council had forbidden contact. The humans were taller than the Calrathi, with broader shoulders and thicker bones. They moved with an easy confidence that spoke of physical power. But Dr. Williams' first words were gentle. "We're here to help. Can someone show me where the wounded are located?" A young Calrathi, her crystalline skin pale with shock, stepped forward. "Follow me, please. We have many wounded. Our medical supplies are almost exhausted." Sarah followed the alien through the damaged ship, her medical team right behind her. The wounded were in what looked like a cargo bay that had been converted into an emergency medical center. Dozens of Calrathi lay on makeshift beds, their injuries ranging from minor cuts to severe trauma. Sarah immediately began triaging patients, her experienced eyes quickly assessing who needed help first. Her team moved with practiced efficiency, setting up portable medical scanners and treatment stations. "This one first," Sarah said, kneeling beside a Calrathi whose crystalline body was badly cracked. She activated her scanner, studying the alien's unique physiology. The device was programmed with data from every known species in the galactic database, information that Earth had quietly gathered over the years. "His name is Telvas," said a Calrathi medic standing nearby. "He was caught in an explosion. I've done what I can, but our equipment is limited." Sarah worked quickly, applying a polymer sealant to the cracks in Telvas' crystalline structure. It wasn't a permanent solution, but it would stabilize him until they could get to better facilities. "He'll be okay," Sarah told the Calrathi medic. "You did good work keeping him alive." Throughout the damaged ship, similar scenes were playing out. Human engineers were patching hull breaches, their tools and techniques different from galactic standard, but highly effective. Human damage control teams were restoring power to damaged sections, and everywhere humans worked alongside Calrathi, showing through actions that they were not the monsters the Council feared. On the bridge of the Calrathi flagship, Commander Veshtala watched the rescue operations on her monitors. She had spent her entire career in diplomacy, trained to read people and situations. What she saw now challenged everything she had been taught about Deathworlders. Yes, the humans were dangerous. The destroyed Kresh ships proved that beyond any doubt. They had weapons and tactics that could tear through galactic defenses like they didn't exist. The Admiral Lisa Cortez received the message about the incoming Council fleet without surprise. She had known this moment would come. The Galactic Council would not ignore a battle this significant, especially one involving the humans they had worked so hard to keep isolated. "How long until they arrive?" she asked Lieutenant Danny Foster. 19 minutes, ma'am," Foster replied. "Sensor readings show 12 dreadnoughts and about 40 support vessels. It's a major fleet deployment." Cortez nodded slowly. The Council was bringing overwhelming force, probably expecting trouble. They didn't know yet that the battle was already over. "Send a message to all human ships. Stand down from combat status, but keep shields raised and weapons ready. We're not looking for a fight, but we're not going to be pushed around either." She opened a channel to the Calrathi flagship. "Commander Veshtala, I assume you've been informed about the Council fleet approaching?" "Yes, Admiral," Veshtala replied. "I want you to know that I will speak on your behalf. What you did here today was heroic. The Council needs to understand that." "I appreciate that, Commander, but I think it's time humanity spoke for itself." While they waited for the Council fleet to arrive, the rescue operations continued. Human medical teams worked alongside Calrathi medics, sharing techniques and learning from each other. Dr. Sarah Williams found herself fascinated by Calrathi physiology. Their crystalline bodies were beautiful but fragile, requiring careful handling. "Your medical technology is very advanced," observed a Calrathi doctor named Shenlo. "But your techniques are different from what we learn in galactic medical schools." "We developed in isolation," Sarah explained while treating a patient. "We had to figure things out on our own. Sometimes that led to different solutions to the same problems." Shanilo watched Sarah work with obvious interest. "You're very gentle with your patients. I was told that Deathworlders were brutal and harsh." Sarah paused in her work, looking at the alien doctor. "We can be brutal when we need to be. Our world taught us how to fight and survive, but it also taught us how to care for each other. When your environment is trying to kill you every day, you learn the value of compassion and cooperation." Down in the engineering section, similar conversations were happening. Human engineers and Calrathi technicians worked side by side to repair damaged systems. The humans brought tools and techniques that seemed crude by galactic standards, but were remarkably effective. "You use a lot of mechanical solutions," observed a Calrathi engineer named Krevtos, watching a human engineer named Paul Dixon repair a damaged power relay. "Mechanical systems are reliable," Dixon replied, his hands moving confidently through the repair. "They don't need computer control or fancy software. If something breaks, you can fix it with basic tools. When you're on a death world, simple and reliable beats complex and fragile every time." Krevtos considered this. "The Council prefers elegant technological solutions. Sophisticated computer systems and automated repairs." "Nothing wrong with that," Dixon said. "But what happens when those systems fail? When the computer crashes or the automation stops working? We learn to build things that humans can fix with their own hands. It saved our lives more times than I can count." On the bridge of the Liberty's Dawn, Admiral Cortez watched her tactical display as the Council fleet emerged from hyperspace. The ships were impressive, large and sophisticated with the kind of technology that came from thousands of years of advanced civilization. They moved into formation with practiced precision, surrounding the human fleet in what was clearly meant to be an intimidating display of power. A communication request came through, and Cortez accepted it. The holographic display showed an alien that looked like a large reptile with silver-colored scales. This was Council Speaker Talvin, the leader of the Galactic Council. This is Council Speaker Talvin to the Terran vessels, the translation rendered in perfect English. You have violated the quarantine protocols established by galactic law. You will power down your weapons and prepare to be escorted back to your system. Cortez kept her voice calm and professional. Speaker Talvin, with all due respect, we violated nothing. We responded to a distress call, as is the right and duty of any spacefaring species under the Galactic Rescue Convention's Article 7. Unless the Council has repealed that law. There was a pause. Talvin's scales shifted color slightly, which Cortez had learned from her cultural briefings was a sign of surprise. The rescue conventions apply to recognized members of the galactic community. Earth is not a member. Earth never asked to be excluded, Cortez countered. For 20 years, we've sent diplomatic messages, offers of trade, cultural exchange proposals, scientific cooperation requests. Every single one was rejected without explanation. You isolated us, Speaker. We just wanted to join the galactic community as peaceful neighbors. From the command cruiser Endeavor, Captain Stephen Harris cut into the conversation. Speaker Talvin, while your council was debating what to do about the Calrathi distress call, we crossed 17 light years to help. Where was the council fleet while innocent people were being murdered? The question hung in the air like an accusation. Talvin knew that Harris was right. The council had received the distress call hours before the humans, but had spent that time in committee meetings and diplomatic consultations. By the time they had decided to act, the humans had already won the battle. Commander Veshtala's voice joined the conversation. Speaker Talvin, I must formally report that the Terran fleet acted with honor and precision. They could have destroyed all the Kresh ships, but instead they disabled many of them to minimize casualties. Their medical teams are currently saving Calrathi lives. They have behaved as exemplary allies, not as the dangerous primitives our files suggested. Commander Veshtala, Talvin began, his tone suggesting he was about to explain something to someone who didn't understand. You must see the larger situation. Yes, the humans helped you, but look at their weapons. They use kinetic accelerators, atomic warheads, electromagnetic weapons. These technologies were banned 3,000 years ago because they're too brutal for civilized warfare. Captain Nicole Hayes, listening from the Valiant, had heard enough. She activated her communication link. Speaker Talvin, let me ask you something. What's more brutal? Using a railgun to end a threat in 12 minutes with minimal casualties? Or spending hours in committee meetings while innocent people die because you're too worried about proper procedures? You speak out of turn, Captain, Talvin replied, his scales flushing a darker color that indicated anger. You know nothing of the delicate balance we maintain across thousands of worlds. Then teach us, Admiral Cortez interjected. Let us join the Council as equals. Let us contribute our strength, our technology, our different perspective. We're not asking for special treatment. We just want a chance to prove that we belong among the stars. She paused, then continued with steel in her voice. Or keep us isolated and watch as we build our own alliances, our own trade networks, our own sphere of influence. We've been developing in isolation for 20 years, Speaker. We've built this fleet in secret. We've created weapons and tactics you've never seen before. You can either have us as friends or as strangers, but you can't keep us locked in our system forever. The choice is yours. It was a gamble, and everyone in the human fleet knew it. They were outnumbered and technically outgunned. If the Council decided to enforce the quarantine by force, the humans would fight, but the outcome was uncertain. A new voice entered the conversation, speaking in melodious tones. Speaker Talvin, this is Council Member Sarah Lynn of the Kyanti delegation. I move that we hear the human petition for membership. Cortez recognized the name. The Kyanti were one of the founding species of the Galactic Council, their voice carrying significant weight. If they were supporting Earth's case, that changed the political calculation considerably. The humans have demonstrated military capability, Sarah Lynn continued. But more importantly, they've demonstrated restraint. They responded to a distress call from a species that had rejected them. They fought to protect the innocent. They showed mercy to their enemies. Is this the behavior of the dangerous barbarians our files describe? Other council members began joining the conversation, their voices creating a complex debate. Some argued that humanity was too dangerous to join galactic civilization. Others pointed out that isolating a powerful species was more dangerous than integrating them. Still, others noted that the current crisis had been caused by the Council's own failure to respond quickly to the distress call. The debate continued for over an hour. The human fleet waited patiently, their ships maintaining a respectful but alert posture. Inside those ships, crews wondered what decision would be made. Would they be welcomed, turned away, attacked? Finally, Speaker Talven's image reappeared on the displays. His scales had shifted to a neutral gray color, suggesting he had reached a decision he could live with, if not one he entirely liked. The journey back to the Council capital world took 3 days. The human fleet traveled alongside the Calrathi convoy and the Council escort, no longer as outsiders but as provisional members of galactic civilization. It was a strange feeling for everyone involved. On the Liberty's dawn, Admiral Cortez sat in her ready room, reviewing reports and preparing for what came next. A soft chime at her door announced a visitor. "Come in," she called. Commander Veshatala entered, looking small and delicate compared to the human furniture. Cortez quickly adjusted a chair to better fit the Calrathi's size. "Please, sit down, Commander. What can I do for you?" "I wanted to thank you personally," Veshatala said, settling into the chair. "Not just for saving my convoy, but for what you said to Speaker Talven. You helped him see past his fear." Cortez smiled slightly. "He was scared of us?" "Terrified," Veshatala confirmed. "The Council has spent thousands of years building a peaceful civilization. They've eliminated war, poverty, disease. They've created a society where conflict is resolved through discussion and compromise. Then they discovered Earth, a world that seemed designed to create the most dangerous species imaginable. They didn't know how to handle you. So they locked us away and hoped we'd stay quiet," Cortez observed. "Yes, it was easier than facing their fears." Veshatala paused, choosing her words carefully. "But I think they're starting to understand something important. Danger and evil are not the same thing." "You're dangerous, yes. Your weapons prove that. But you're not evil. You proved that too." Over the next few days, humans and aliens began to interact more freely. Cultural exchanges happened spontaneously as crew members from different ships visited each other. The barriers of fear and misunderstanding began to break down. Dr. Sarah Williams gave a presentation on human medicine to a group of fascinated Calrathi doctors. They were amazed by humanity's approach to healthcare, which emphasized redundancy and fail-safes born from working in dangerous environments. "We always assume the worst-case scenario," Sarah explained. "We train our doctors to work without advanced equipment because sometimes equipment fails. We teach field medicine because sometimes you can't get to a hospital. Our entire medical philosophy is based on the idea that things will go wrong, and we need to be ready for it." A Calrathi doctor named Telrin raised a crystalline hand. "That seems very pessimistic. Don't you trust your technology?" "We trust it," Sarah replied. "But we also know that technology can fail. People can't always rely on machines to save them. Sometimes all you have is your knowledge, your hands, and your determination. That's what being from a death world teaches you." In the engineering sections, human and alien technicians were discovering that they had more in common than anyone expected. Paul Dixon found himself in a lengthy discussion with Krevtos about power systems and structural engineering. "Your designs prioritize durability over efficiency," Krevtos observed, studying schematics of human ship construction. You use more material, more redundant systems. It makes your ships heavier and less elegant. But harder to kill, Dixon pointed out. One of our destroyers can take damage that would cripple a council ship and keep fighting. We build things to survive. Because your world taught you that survival is not guaranteed, Krevtos said thoughtfully. On my homeworld, the environment is gentle. We never had to fight nature the way you did. Perhaps that's why our technology evolved differently. The conversation that followed lasted hours, with both engineers learning from each other's approaches. By the end, they had sketched out designs for a hybrid ship that combined galactic elegance with human durability. On the command cruiser Endeavor, Captain Stephen Harris hosted a dinner for several Calrathi officers. The food was carefully prepared to be safe for both species, and the conversation flowed easily. "I have a question," said a young Calrathi officer named Venlas. "Why did you help us? Your species was rejected by the Council, isolated for decades. You had every reason to ignore our distress call." Harris set down his fork, considering the question. "Because it was the right thing to do? Yes, the Council treated us badly. Yes, we had reasons to be angry. But you personally didn't do anything to us. You were in trouble, and you asked for help. What kind of people would we be if we ignored that?" "But you risked war with the Council," Venlas persisted. "You disobeyed your own government's orders. You could have faced severe consequences." "Some things are more important than politics," Harris replied. "Human history is full of examples of people who did the right thing even when it was risky or forbidden. We're not perfect, but we try to help when we can." Another Calrathi officer, Pelmos, spoke up. "I've been studying your history. Your species has fought terrible wars against each other. Millions died. How do you reconcile that with your talk of compassion and helping others?" The table went quiet. It was a fair question, and a painful one. Harris took a moment before answering. "You're right. We've done terrible things to each other throughout our history. We've fought wars over territory, resources, ideology, religion. We've committed atrocities that shame us to this day." He paused. "But we've also learned from those mistakes. Every war taught us something about the cost of violence. Every conflict showed us the value of peace. We're not claiming to be perfect or enlightened. We're just trying to be better than we were." "Your species carries both darkness and light," Pelmos observed. "Every species does," Harris replied. "The difference is that we're very aware of our darkness, because our history forces us to confront it. Maybe that makes us more careful about how we use our power." As the days passed and the fleet grew closer to the Council capital, word of what had happened spread throughout galactic civilization. The story took on a life of its own, growing with each retelling. The Deathworlders had emerged from isolation with a powerful fleet. They had destroyed a Kresh battle group in minutes. They had shown both mercy and fury in the same battle. Some species reacted with fear, worried about what humanity might do now that they were part of galactic society. Others were curious, eager to meet these strange beings from the deadly world. Still others saw opportunity, wondering what humanity might offer in terms of trade or alliance. On Earth, the reaction was more complicated. The government was officially angry that Admiral Cortez had disobeyed orders and deployed the fleet without authorization. Unofficially, they were thrilled that humanity had finally gained recognition from the Galactic Council. Lieutenant Jake Morrison, whose decision to wake Captain Harris had started this whole chain of events, found himself being interviewed by news organizations across Earth. "I just did my job," he kept saying. "Someone sent a distress call. I passed it on to my commander. That's all." But people saw him as a hero anyway, the man whose simple decision to act had changed humanity's destiny. The fleet finally arrived at the Council capital world, a beautiful planet covered in gleaming cities and vast parks. The council had arranged for a formal reception, with representatives from dozens of species present to meet the humans. Admiral Cortez led a delegation that included Captain Harris, Captain Hayes, Commander Bennett, and Dr. Williams. They wore their dress uniforms, trying to look professional and non-threatening. Speaker Talvin greeted them personally in the Grand Council chamber. "Welcome to the capital, Admiral Cortez. Welcome to all of you. Today marks a historic moment for galactic civilization." The ceremony that followed was long and full of formal speeches. Speaker after speaker talked about cooperation, understanding, and the bright future ahead. The humans listened patiently, understanding that this was important even if it was tedious. Finally, it was Admiral Cortez's turn to speak. She stood at the podium, looking out at the assembled representatives of galactic civilization. Some looked curious, some looked afraid. All of them were watching to see what she would say. "Thank you for this welcome," Cortez began. "Humanity has waited a long time for this moment. We've spent 20 years in isolation, wondering if we would ever be accepted among the stars. Some of us were angry about that. Some of us were hurt. But today we choose to move forward rather than dwell on the past." She paused, making eye contact with various council members. "Yes, we come from a death world. Yes, we're dangerous. Yes, we carry weapons that frighten you, but we also carry something else. We carry the memory of what it means to struggle for survival. We remember what it's like to face impossible odds and find a way through. And we remember that the only way to survive is to help each other. Our world tried to kill us every single day for millions of years. We survived because we learned to cooperate, to share, to sacrifice for each other. That's the real lesson of Earth. Not that we're dangerous, but that we know the value of working together." She gestured to the other humans standing with her. "Every person in the Terran fleet volunteered to be there. We didn't force anyone to risk their lives crossing 17 light years to help strangers. They chose to go because they believed it was right. That's what humanity offers to galactic civilization. Not just our weapons or our technology, but our willingness to help when help is needed." The chamber was silent for a moment after she finished. Then, Council Member Sarah Lynn began to clap, the gesture translating across species as a sign of approval. Others joined in, and soon the entire chamber was applauding. Later that evening, there was a reception where humans mingled with aliens in a more casual setting. Captain Nicole Hayes found herself talking to a group of military officers from various species. They had many questions about human tactics and weapons. "How do you train your crews to handle such high acceleration?" asked a Volnari commander. "The forces involved should cause physical damage." "We train from childhood," Hayes explained. "Every human grows up in Earth's gravity, which is higher than most worlds. We also use centrifuge training, pressure suits, and special exercises to strengthen our bodies. What seems extreme to you is normal for us." A Terexan admiral looked worried. "Your weapons ignore our defensive systems. How do we defend against such attacks?" Hayes considered the question carefully. "You don't fight humans the way you fight each other. Our tactics are different because our world made us different. But here's the thing. We don't want to fight you. We came to the stars looking for friends, not enemies." "But if someone did attack Earth," the Terexan pressed, "then they would learn why it's called a death world," Hayes replied honestly. "We defend what's ours, but we're also capable of peaceful coexistence. The choice of war or peace is up to others. We're ready for either." As the reception continued, Commander Veshatala stood on a balcony overlooking the city, enjoying a moment of quiet. Admiral Cortez joined her, two leaders sharing a peaceful moment. "What happens now?" Veshatala asked. "Now we prove ourselves," Cortez replied. "We show the galaxy that humanity can be trusted. We participate in council meetings, we follow the rules, we build relationships. It won't be easy, but nothing worthwhile ever is." "Will you disarm?" Veshtala asked. "Will you give up the weapons that frighten the council?" Cortez shook her head. No, we'll never be defenseless again, but we'll use those weapons wisely. We'll be the species that others call when they need help, not the species they fear will attack them. Veshtala looked at the human admiral with respect. You've changed the galaxy, you know. Nothing will be the same after this. Good, Cortez said. Change means growth. Growth means progress. Maybe humanity joining the Council is exactly what galactic civilization needs. A reminder that the universe is dangerous and that we need to be ready for anything. Back on Earth, people celebrated in the streets. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe. They had friends among the stars, opportunities for trade and learning, and a future brighter than anyone had imagined just a few days before. Lieutenant Jake Morrison watched the celebrations on his view screen, still amazed that his simple decision to report a distress call had led to all this. Captain Harris had told him that great moments in history often began with small choices made by ordinary people. Maybe that was true. Maybe one person really could make a difference. In space, the human fleet prepared for its journey home. They would return as heroes, as the people who had broken the quarantine and won humanity's place among the stars. But more importantly, they would return knowing they had done the right thing. They had answered a call for help. They had saved innocent lives. They had shown both strength and compassion. And in doing so, they had proven that even Deathworlders could be a force for good in the galaxy. The future was uncertain, full of challenges and opportunities in equal measure. But humanity would face it the way they had always faced the unknown, with courage, determination, and the willingness to help others when help was needed. The Deathworlders had arrived among the stars, and the galaxy would never be the same. Admiral Cortez, Talven began, his voice more measured than before. The Council has reached a decision. We are prepared to grant Earth provisional recognition as a candidate member species. You will be given embassy rights on the Council capital world. You may participate in Council sessions as observers. Full membership will require a probationary period of 10 standard cycles, during which you must demonstrate that you can coexist peacefully with galactic civilization. Cortez felt relief wash over her, though she kept her expression neutral. We accept these terms, Speaker Talven, and we thank you for being willing to reconsider your position on humanity. Talven's scales shifted to a warm amber color. Thank you, Admiral, for reminding us that even the harshest environments can produce noble spirits. Perhaps we have as much to learn from you as you have to learn from us. The channel closed, and for a moment, silence filled the bridge of the Liberty's dawn. Then Lieutenant Danny Foster let out a whoop of joy, and the rest of the crew erupted in cheers. They had done it. Humanity had finally earned its place among the stars, could pull maneuvers that would kill most species. They came from a planet so harsh that it had forged them into something stronger and harder than the rest of galactic civilization. But they were also gentle when gentleness was needed. Their medics treated Kalrathi wounded with care and compassion. Their engineers worked tirelessly to repair damaged systems. Their admiral had ordered disabled ships spared rather than destroyed, showing mercy to an enemy that had shown none. These were not simple monsters. These were complex beings, capable of great violence and great kindness, often at the same time. "Commander," said Pelmos quietly, "we're receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council. They detected the battle, and they're sending a fleet. They'll be here in about 20 minutes. Veshtala felt a knot form in her stomach. The Council was coming. They would see the human fleet, see the destroyed Kresh ships, see everything, and they would have questions. "Inform Admiral Cortez," Veshtala said. "She should know what's coming." The battle was over. But the real challenge was just beginning. Krovax felt anger rise in his chest. How dare these jumped-up Deathworlders give him orders? His fleet had been raiding successfully for years. The Galactic Council was too weak to stop him. What made these humans think they could? "Tell the human admiral that she should run home before she gets hurt," Krovax said. "Her species has been hiding in their system for decades. They know nothing of real war." The message was sent. On the Liberty's dawn, Admiral Cortez heard the Kresh response and shook her head sadly. "Wrong answer," she said quietly. Then she activated Fleet Command. "All ships, weapons free. Target Kresh vessels. Show them what Category 7 means. Fire." The human fleet opened fire, and the battle began. 17 hours away. 17 hours for those aliens to stay alive. She hoped they could hold out that long. "Earth Command is transmitting, ma'am," reported Lieutenant Danny Foster from Communications. "They're ordering us to stand down and return to dock." "Tell them we're having trouble with our receiver," Cortez said calmly. "Technical difficulties. We'll get back to them as soon as we can." She turned to the helmsman, Lieutenant Chris Martinez. "All ships jump on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark." The human fleet vanished in flashes of brilliant light, tearing holes through space itself as they raced toward strangers who needed help. Behind them, Earth Command shouted orders that no one could hear. Ahead of them, a battle waited. And for the first time in 20 years, humanity was going to show the galaxy exactly what Deathworlders could do.